Hey everybody, hope you all are doing well and welcome back to Michael's Matters. And since it is the mid-month, that means that we are doing our COLA update for those folks who are on programs mainly through Social Security. So that could be Social Security Disability, SSDI, Supplemental Security Income, SSI, as well as Social Security Retirement and the VA or the Railroad Retirement Benefits. So anything that is pegged to the COLA. Now, one very interesting aspect about this month's info that we got from the BLS, which is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, who are the folks who do these kinds of things, is that they have figured with the CPI calculations in a way that could have pretty dramatic effects on the 2024 COLA for those folks who are on Social Security programs. And really, it is sort of questionable at the moment whether or not it will mean higher or lower than usual COLAs for this next year. So today we're going to talk about the newest CPI numbers, which are what define the COLA to come, what changes have been made, and will it mean more or less money in the hands of American seniors, retirees, and folks on Social Security programs. Now, this is Michael's Matters, and before we get to the video, if you like these videos, if you find them interesting, if you find them helpful, hey, you know what? If you find them useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And that way you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. All right, now, let's get down to the video. Let's start off today with the changes that have been made by the Fed to the CPI calculator that ultimately will change how the COLA for 2024 is going to be calculated. And the real question I guess we're all asking is, will it mean more or less money into the hands of Social Security beneficiaries or retirees in the coming year? And the answer really is, well, it sort of depends. Starting January, for the most recent numbers, so these are the numbers we're talking about right now that we got from the BLS, they're going to change how long of a period that they take samples of cost to create the CPI that creates the COLA. So previously, it was a 2-year sample period, which means that they would look back at how Americans spent their money from 2020 and 2021, and then apply that to 2023 and study all that information in 2022. So the information from 2020 and 2021, study it in 2022, apply it in 2023. But now, they will only look at the spending Americans had for 2021, and then compare it in 2022, and then use it for 2023. So that is one of the big changes. So why would they do this? Kind of depends on which answer you believe, because there's two of them. The first is that the official reason, at least, is that because they believe, quote, the change will improve the relevance of CPI spending weights by using the most recent consumer spending information by improving the relevance of spending weights. BLS can improve accuracy of the CPI, end quote. So essentially what they're saying here is by having that extra year, you don't need that extra year because it's so far ago and prices are changing so fast that why would you calculate it into it? You only need 1 year for, because that's going to be the one that's closest to where we are now and thus the most accurately. So that is the first reason. Now, the second reason, which is more of my opinion, and I believe is probably the stronger reason for the change, is that by shortening the sample period to 1 year, at least in the near term, it means that they can cut out a large amount of inflation that was seen in 2020, which had big, huge spikes, and now just use the inflation rate from 2021. So why does it matter? Well, it means that the inflation numbers, they magically look better. How convenient. If we look at the chart, we can see that CPI in November was at 7.1%. So that's November 2022. Then in December, it was at 6.5%. And now with the new way that they are rating the CPI and inflation, it's only showing 6.4%. And this is a big deal because the CPI is used to justify any number of other things that are tied to inflation. And if you ask anybody who's on fixed income, they will tell you even the difference of 0.1%. I mean, that can make all the difference in the world. Moreover, the real downside is that the real inflation that you and me and everybody else is feeling, well, it's not going away just because it's not showing up in the numbers. Sure, it's not calculated in the CPI equation, and ultimately it doesn't get included in the calculator for the COLA. That doesn't mean that the inflation is actually getting less. It just means that now the COLA might not accurately reflect it. So this is a perfect example, again, in my opinion, where potentially politics is getting in the way of actually getting more help into the hands of older Americans and retirees. Now, I don't want to put my tinfoil hat here on, but if somebody did want to find a way to low-key cut funding from programs like Social Security, well, obviously they couldn't do a full frontal assault. I mean, that would be a political disaster, and we can just take a look at example one of that, the GOP lately, who've tried that and have been burned. But if you could start tweaking calculations deep down In the bureaucracy, so many steps removed from the actual program, like Social Security, but ultimately having the same effect, you really could start trimming benefits from seniors slowly, methodically, and really under the radar. Is that any different? All right, so enough of that. Let's talk about where the numbers actually came out this month and get to the COLA 2024 prediction by me, which I'm going to base off the current rate of inflation. Now, from the most recent BLS numbers that are out this week, it looks like the CPI-U, which is the general inflation number, is up higher than expected. Initially, it was expected to be at 6.2% by all the smart money, and those are the folks with the bow ties, but actually went up by 0.5%, which was up from December's rate of 6.5%. It went up to 6.4%, which is counterintuitive, but remember, we're using a different standard. So basically, it's good news and it's bad news. Now, for the general economy and for COLA beneficiaries, it means that the inflation rate is going down, technically, which also means that the COLA could potentially go down. It's not going to be as big as it would have been. In the eyes of the federal bank, that is, this is obviously good news. Inflation is going down. But the bad news is, well, we don't really know if it is or not because they changed the criteria. We can't compare apples to apples. But if it is not going down, if inflation is actually going up, I can guarantee you those folks on fixed budgets will be some of the first people to feel it. Now, more specifically for the COLA, or the cost of living adjustment for 2024, we're going to look at the measurement of the CPI-W. So the CPI-U was the general one. We're going to look at the CPI-W, which is the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, which is the number that the COLA is actually based off of. In this case, the CPI-W is starting to look more like the normal CPI-U that has been adjusted, and the CPI-W was up by 0.09% to 6.3%, which again is much more than it was anticipated. This means that the COLA for 2024 could see another big increase like it was last year, or for this year, 2023, something in that 6 to 7% range. But with the updated calculator, we can't yet take the 3-month average and try to figure out an accurate prediction of what the COLA for 2024 could be, at least not until we get the numbers that all match on the same standard. So we'll get January, February, and March, and then April will be able to figure that out. Because otherwise, everything is just going to be off. It'd basically be like trying to use a standard tool on a metric measure device, and things just come out real funky. Now, although it is good that the COLA could be as high as 6 to 7%, when we dig into the numbers, the cost that seniors have could actually be outpacing the overall CPI-W number, or the COLA number, which was previously at 8.6% that we got for 2023. For example, if we look at both food at home and food away from home, they went up by 10.1% and 11.3%, which again means that even with that 8.6% increase that folks got in 2023, the COLA is not actually keeping beneficiaries able to afford the same amount as food as they had gotten before. In fact, dollars-wise is 2.5% less. Another gigantic increase was in energy fuel, like oil, that went up by 27.7%, or things like utility gas, which is what we use to heat our house or to light our stoves in places that you still have stoves that are legal to do that. They went up by 26.7%. And then also electricity rose by 11.9% year over year from the month of January. So we can see that the overall cost of goods, or the CPI-U, well, they're only going up by 6.4% under the new calculation, or 6.3% with the CPI-W. But the specific costs that seniors, retirees, and many Social Security beneficiaries have, like, for example, natural gas, fuel, and electricity, that you can imagine affects folks who spend more time at home in the cold more heavily than the average clerical worker. Those things actually affect them more, and their COLAs are not keeping up with it. Or food. I mean, that was a huge jump this last month, and the problem is there isn't any way to avoid it. Whether you eat at home or whether you eat out, I mean, there's no way to make that 8.6% COLA increase from 2023 stretch to cover those new costs. So ultimately, how does this new CPI data that's just come out affect the future of the COLA 2024? Well, it's not 100% clear yet. It's going to depend on how the new metrics play out for the CPI over the next couple months and really for the year. It's also going to depend on the future of the economy, how the economy goes, as well as how inflation continues to go. But with the BLS changing the way they calculate the CPI, it does seem to feel like they are moving the goalposts a little bit. And by changing the internal weighting, the numbers, and how they calculate and the years they calculate, I mean, this is all done with the objective of really improving the inflation rate to make it look better for politics. But ultimately what this does is that if they are making inflation look better, but actually not making inflation better, it's going to have a real detrimental effect on people who rely on benefits that are from programs like Social Security and retirement programs and pensions that are tagged to that CPIW. And ultimately, I think what it's going to do is going to shave off a couple points here and a couple points there from benefits overall. So that's it for today, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, if you found it interesting, if you found it helpful, or if you found it useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And that way you can get updates when our new and most informative videos become available. So for Michael's Matters, I'm Michael, hoping that you take care of yourself, take care of others, and have a happy, healthy